They told me healing would take time, that it wasn't just my body that needed fixing, but something deeper, something no one could name out loud. I didn't believe them, not until she walked in, and suddenly I could feel again. Not joy, not hope, but something. And after the months I'd spent numb, even a flicker was enough to wake something buried inside me. It was just a follow-up appointment. Post-op check on the heart valve they'd replaced 2 months earlier. The scar still felt foreign, like it didn't belong to me. I hated how my body felt, now slow, cautious, stitched together. I hated the beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic, the way everyone looked at me like I was fragile, like I might fall apart if the wind blew too hard. I was 37, too young to feel this old, too tired to care if anything changed. I was scrolling mindlessly through my phone when the door opened. And she stepped in. She wasn't what I expected nurse, maybe late 20s. Auburn hair tied in a loose bun, a few wisps falling into her face like they didn't care about rules. Her eyes were what got me, though. Big, soft, uncertain, but not in a weak way. She looked at me like I wasn't a diagnosis, like I was someone. I hadn't felt that in a long time. "Hi, I'm here to check your vitals," she said, her voice calm, clipped, clearly rehearsed. But something in it trembled slightly at the edges, like she didn't always know how to hold herself together. That made two of us. She didn't say her name right away. She was focused, professional. She wheeled in a cart and began her routine. Blood pressure, oxygen levels, temperature. I watched her hands more than anything. Slim fingers, but steady. She touched me like she didn't want to disturb something sacred. Even when she pressed the stethoscope to my chest, it felt like she was asking permission with her eyes. That part got to me. "Your heart's racing a little," she said, looking up from her chart. I tried to smile. Maybe it's the nurse. Her lips twitched like she didn't want to smile back, but couldn't stop herself. "You'd be surprised how often I hear that," she said, but something in her tone said she WASN, single quotes, too. It was quiet after that. She finished her check, made a note, and turned to leave. "You didn't tell me your name." She paused. Her back stiffened, but she turned slowly. "Aubrey, Aubrey," I repeated, letting it roll around in my mouth like something I wanted. To taste again, she left without another word, and I sat there, feeling like someone had just lit a match inside my ribs. After that, I started noticing when she was working. Thursdays and Mondays, mostly. I'd ask the front desk for those slots, pretending it was about convenience. But really, it was because I needed to see her, needed to feel something real, needed to remember I still had a pulse, not just in my chest, but in the places that make you human. Each time I came in, we talked a little more. About nothing, really. Weather, music, the annoying parking situation at the hospital. But sometimes she'd say something personal, like how she hated the smell of coffee but drank it anyway, or that she couldn't fall asleep without white noise. Things people only share when they don't mean to. I started wondering about her when I wasn't there. Wondering if she had someone waiting for her after her shifts. She laughed easily. When she wasn't around patients, her softness ever hardened under pressure. I hated how much I cared. I hated how icily she had slipped under my skin. But the truth was, I had stopped caring about most things before her. And suddenly she was all I could think about. One evening, she brought me a coffee. "Don't tell anyone," she whispered, handing it over with a half smile. "They don't usually let us do this." "I won't," I said. "But I'm mourning. I'm starting to look forward to seeing you." She froze for half a second, then smiled again, quieter this time. "That's dangerous. For me or for you?" Her eyes met mine, and in that one look, something passed between you, something neither of us said out loud. But we both felt it. She didn't answer. Just walked away, leaving me with the coffee. Her name still warm in my mouth. A heartbeat I no longer blamed on the medication. I didn't know what this was. All I knew was that the girl who checked, My vitals had somehow brought me back to life, and God help me, I wanted to feel more. Asterisk, I told myself it wasn't real, that what I was feeling was just post-surgery vulnerability, that I was confusing comfort with attraction. I convinced myself for weeks that she was just being kind, that maybe she treated every patient with that same soft voice, those warm hands, that rare, flickering smile she gave when she forgot she was supposed to be guarded. But I was lying. I knew it. The night I saw her in the hospital cafe, she wasn't supposed to be there. It was after hours, near closing time. I had just finished a long, miserable cardiac therapy session, and my muscles were aching in that deep, bone-heavy way that makes you question whether life was better before the healing started. I was angry at my body, at time, at the unfairness of starting over. And there she was, alone, hair down for once. No scrubs, just a hoodie and jeans. Still had that tired look around her eyes, like she hadn't slept well in years. She looked up, surprised to see me but not unhappy. I think that's what made me walk over. She smiled. Didn't think this place served heartbreak after 8 p.m. I smirked. Only 4 repeat customers. She laughed low and real, like she'd forgotten how to fake it. I bought us both cheap coffee and sat down across from her. For the first few minutes, we danced around the obvious, like people circling a fire they're not sure they want to. Feed, you always this quiet off-duty? I asked. She shrugged. Most people don't care to hear what a nurse has to say when she's not holding a clipboard. I'm not most people. That made her look at me. Not just glance. Look, like she was finally seeing the thing between us. Instead of pretending it wasn't there, I told her things I hadn't told anyone. How hard it was to wake up every day feeling like less than I was before. How the scar on my chest felt like a reminder of everything I lost. She listened, not like a nurse, like a woman, like someone who knew exactly what it was like to feel broken and tired and afraid to hope again. She didn't open up much that night, not in words, but her eyes did. And when I walked her to the elevator, something hung between oosthick and unspoken. I could feel it in the silence. She turned to say goodnight, and I knew I should have let her go. I should have smiled and waved and respected the invisible line that keeps nurses and patients on opposite sides of the glass. But I didn't. I think about you, said, voice low. She blinked. Chris, I know I'm not supposed to, but I do. She hesitated, then whispered, you're not the only one. There was a long moment. Then she leaned in and kissed me. It was quick, barely there. A brush of lips that could have been passed off as nothing, if not for the way my entire body reacted, like it had just remembered how to feel. She pulled back like she'd touched fire. I shouldn't have done that. You did. I can't. She shook her head. I shouldn't feel this way. If you're a patient, I could lose my job, my license, everything. I didn't ask you for anything, I said. Except the truth. She closed her eyes for a second. The truth is I'm scared. Of me, of this, of what it means, of what it could mean. Then the elevator dinged and she stepped inside. I didn't follow. I watched the doors close between us, her face disappearing behind metal and fluorescent lights and all the rules we were supposed to follow. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of pain or meds or nightmares, but because I could still taste her on my mouth. After that, things shifted. She was distant for a while, quiet during checkups, all business. She wouldn't meet my eyes, wouldn't let her fingers linger like they used to. It was like that kiss had erased every moment we'd built. But I saw her trembling when she took my blood pressure. I saw her hands clench into fists when she walked out of the room too fast. I knew it wasn't over. Then came the Friday night I was discharged for good. She wasn't supposed to be there. Her shift had ended hours earlier. But as I stepped out of the hospital doors into the cold night air, she was standing there, arms wrapped around herself, like she'd been waiting. You're not supposed to be here, I said. She looked up, and her voice broke slightly when she said, neither. Are you? I stepped closer, So what now? I don't know, she whispered. Ah, but I don't want to pretend anymore. And then she kissed me again. This time, it wasn't soft. It wasn't scared. It was deep and full and messy, like we were both reaching for something we didn't know how to name. Her hands tangled in my hair. Mine gripped her waist like she might disappear. We didn't say anything else. I took her hand. She came home with me. And that night, the line we'd danced around for weeks finally disappeared. The morning after wasn't what I expected. No regret. No awkward silence. Just sunlight creeping across the sheets and the sound of her breathing beside me, slow, even, peaceful. I laid there watching her, trying to understand this strange calm that had settled in my chest. For the first time in months, my heart didn't feel like it was racing to keep up with my pain. It just felt full. Her head was on my shoulder. One of her legs tangled with mine under the blanket, as if she belonged there. And maybe that's what scared me most, not the act itself. Not the kiss or the sex or the way she had moaned my name like it meant something. But how natural it felt. Like we'd done this before in another life. When she woke. She blinked slowly, then looked at me like she was trying to figure out if this was real. "Hey," I said quietly. Her face softened. "Hey," neither of us moved. She stayed curled into me like she hadn't yet decided whether this was a dream or a mistake. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I didn't plan for any of this." "Me neither." She traced lazy circles on my chest. Right over the scar, it should have made me flinch. I used to hate when anyone touched that part of MIT. Felt too exposed, too raw. But her fingers there felt different. Like she wasn't touching a wound. Like she was touching the place where I'd come back to life. "I don't do this," she whispered. "I don't bring patients home. I don't blur lines. You didn't blur anything. You crossed it. Same as me." She gave a soft, sad laugh. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No," I said. "But maybe it makes us honest." She sat up a little, the blanket falling away from her shoulder, exposing bare skin I couldn't stop looking at. "I've spent years keeping people at arm's length," she said. "Ever since?" Her voice trailed off. "Ever since what?" She hesitated, then looked at me. "Ever since I let someone in and it nearly broke me. He lied, he cheated. I stayed longer than I should have. And after that, I told myself I'd never let anyone have that kind of power again." I reached up, touched her cheek. "You didn't give me power. You gave me truth. And what if?" "This isn't real," she whispered. "What if we just needed something to hold on to and we confused it for something deeper?" I didn't have an answer. I could still taste her kiss. Still feel the echo of her body on mine. But underneath, that deeper than lust was something else. "Then let's figure it out," I said. "Together." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. We spent the rest of the day wrapped up in each other, making love like we were trying to unwrite everything that came before. Laughing in the kitchen as we burned pancakes. Sitting on the couch with her head on my lap, talking about everything and nothing. It felt right, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Because loving someone isn't just about warmth. It's about risk. And the deeper you fall, the harder it hits when something breaks. Asterisk at first, we were careful. We kept our secret tucked between the walls of my apartment, safe and quiet and unspoken. Aubrey still showed up at the clinic on Thursdays and Mondays, but now she didn't linger when she took my vitals. No gentle smiles, no flirty remarks. Just a quick check, a glance, and she was gone. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. We texted in the evenings, late-night confessions. Little pieces of ourselves we hadn't given anyone in years. I told her. About the music I used to write before the surgery, before my hands started trembling and my heart got too tired. She told me about her brother who died in a car crash when she was 19, how she had been the one driving. Some nights, we met again, always at my place, always behind closed doors. The moments were intense, raw, addictive. But afterward, when I held her, could feel something slipping between us. She never stayed the whole night anymore. One night I asked her why. She pulled the blanket tighter around her and said, "Because I don't know what this is." "You don't know what?" "We are." She didn't answer right away. "I care about you," she whispered. "But there's a line I crossed and I don't know how to come back from it." "So don't come back," I said. "Come forward. Be with me, for real." She shook her head. "You don't understand, Chris. If anyone finds out, I lose everything. My job, my license, maybe even the right to work in the field again. And you could be seen as vulnerable. As someone I took advantage of." I reached for her hand. "I don't feel taken advantage of. I feel seen." But she was already pulling away. It was around then that the messages started changing. She'd take longer to reply. Sometimes she'd say she had to work late, even on nights I knew she wasn't scheduled. And then one Saturday, I stopped by the hospital to drop off something she had forgotten at my place's simple silver bracelet she always wore. The front desk nurse gave me a strange look. "Oh," she said, "Bree's not here today. But she said she had a shift." Nurse frowned. "She's off until Tuesday. Family emergency, I think." My stomach dropped. I tried to push it aside, told myself there had to be an explanation. But doubt, once it finds a crack, moves in fast. The next time I saw her, she looked tired, pale. Her smile felt forced. "I brought your bracelet," I said, placing it in her hand. She stared at it, then nodded. "Thanks. Where were you Saturday?" I asked, gently. Her eyes flickered with family. I waited. She looked down. I didn't want to talk about it, and maybe I should have let it go. Maybe I should have trusted her. But something inside me, a gut instinct I couldn't ignore, kept whispering that something wasn't right. It wasn't just distance. It was a wall. That night when she left, I did something I'm not proud of. I followed her. She didn't go home. She went to another apartment in a different neighborhood. She used a key, and when the door opened, a man was standing there. He hugged her like he hadn't seen her in days. She didn't pull away. I sat in my car for a long time, my hands shaking, my heartbeat thunderous. In my ears, the woman who once checked my heartbeat now held it in her hands, and I had no idea who she really was. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car, parked on a quiet street that wasn't mine, in a neighborhood I'd never been to, trying to make sense of what I saw. Her in another man's arms, inside his home, using a key. I tried to come up with reasons. Maybe it was her brother, a roommate, an ex she hadn't really let go of. But no matter how many versions I ran in my head, one thing stayed the same she hadn't told me, and that silence felt louder than anything. The next morning, I didn't text her. I waited. She didn't reach out. Not even a good morning. Not even a lie. By that evening, I'd cracked. I messaged her, "Can we talk?" She replied 5 minutes later, "Come over, I'll explain everything." My stomach twisted. A word. Everything. I showed up at her door just before 9 p.m., same hoodie she'd worn that first night in the hospital cafe. Same tired eyes. But this time, they were filled with something else. Guilt. She let me in quietly. We sat on opposite ends of her couch, the space between us colder than the wind outside. "I followed you," I said. "No point pretending. Saturday, I saw you go into that guy's apartment." She flinched like I'd hit her. "I know. That surprised me, you know. I saw your car in the mirror as I crossed the street. I knew you were there, so you let me see it?" "No," she whispered. I just didn't stop it. I stared at her. "Tell me who he is." She took a deep breath. "His name is Marcus. He's my husband." The room tilted. My lungs emptied. "No," I said. "You told me I never told you anything," she cut in, eyes wet now. "I never said I was single. You just assumed. And I let you. Me fall for you." She buried her face in her hands. "I know. Know it was wrong. Just God, Chris. I didn't expect you." That sentence destroyed me more than the truth. I didn't expect you. Like I was some beautiful accident. A complication. It's a thing that got in the way. You said you were scared, I muttered. I thought you meant scared of us. Not scared. Of being found out. Didn't plan for any of this, she said, her voice cracking. Marcus and I have been distant for over a year. Barely speaking. Barely there. But we still live together. I didn't know how to leave. And then you came into my life and it felt alive again. I felt alive. Don't you understand that? I wanted to scream. I wanted to touch her. I wanted to walk out and never look back. I did none of those things. Instead, I whispered, "You let me believe I was the only one." Her voice broke completely. "You were, Chris, even if I didn't. Deserve you. You were the only one who saw me." But that was the problem. I saw her. And I still couldn't decide if that made me feel lucky or used. I left without kissing her, without touching her. I just walked out, not knowing if I hated her. Or still loved her anyway. Weeks passed. At first, it felt like I was detoxing. Like I'd been high on her, and now my system was trying to learn how to function without the thing it craved most. I stopped checking my phone. I deleted her texts. Okay? I boxed up the hoodie she left at my place and shoved it into the back of my closet. Still, I could smell her sometimes lavender and clean linen like a ghost clinging to my skin. And every time my chest ached, it wasn't my heart this time. Not the physical one. It was the part of me I'd given to her. It's the one I wasn't. Sure, I'd get back. Then one rainy Thursday, she showed up unannounced. I opened the door, and there she was, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to her face, clutching her keys like she might collapse. "I'm sorry," she said before I could even breathe. I stepped aside. Shouldn't have. But I did. She stood in the center of my living room, dripping onto the hardwood floor, staring at the space we once called ours even, if only in secret. "I left him," she whispered. "I didn't speak. I told him everything about you, about us." He wasn't surprised. Still, I said nothing. She moved closer, eyes wide and red and terrified. "I don't have a plan. Don't have a place to stay yet." Chris, I don't even know if you'll let me finish this sentence. But I couldn't keep living a lie. I looked at her, and for a second, I saw the woman who held my hand in the hospital, who kissed me like I was air after drowning, who touched my scar like it wasn't ugly. I remembered how she looked when she fell asleep on my chest, like maybe she trusted me more than herself. But I also remembered what it felt like to stand in my car watching her hug another man. Watching her walk into a life she didn't tell me existed. "You should have told me sooner," I said. "I know. You should have let me choose Aubrey instead of choosing for me." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I was afraid you'd walk away. I did walk away." Silence. Then, and if I asked you not to, I shook my head slowly. "I want to believe you. I want to take you in and pretend none of it happened. But I can't love someone I don't fully trust. Not again. I can't." Her face crumbled, and I hated how much I still wanted to hold her. But I didn't. I couldn't. She turned toward the door, hand trembling as she reached for the knob. And just before she left, she looked back. "I never meant to break you. I met her eyes. You didn't. You just showed me where I still needed to heal." And then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her. That night I sat with my scar, my silence, and the first real breath I'd taken in a long time. She was supposed to check my heartbeat, but in the end, she broke it open. And maybe that's what I needed all along.